The maid in Lu Ling's courtyard drugged him with an aphrodisiac, and I exposed her publicly. That night, she set fire to the woodshed where she was confined and burned herself to death. 3 months later, on my wedding night with Lu Ling, he laced the ceremonial wine with the most potent poison. He watched as a foul-smelling beggar tore my wedding gown to shreds, laughing. Yingxue only loved me. Hat wrong is there in that? When you drove her to death, did you ever consider this outcome? Only then did I realize Lu Ling had never loved me, only that maid. The beggar's savage laughter consumed my last shred of consciousness. I snapped awake. The spring sunlight stung my eyes. Peach blossoms fell onto the pale yellow hem of my skirt, delicate and vibrant. In my hands, I held a bowl of sobering broth. The glazed porcelain reflected my 16-year-old face. My eyes and brows were still full of life, untouched by the filth and despair to come. Miss Bu looked at me with concern. You look pale. Are you feeling unwell? I looked down at the bowl in my hands. My fingertips trembled. Is today the spring banquet at the Duke of Yingxue's residence? My voice tightened. Yes, miss. Have you forgotten? You rose early especially to prepare this hangover remedy for the young master yourself. Bai said with a smile. If the young master knew how much thought you put into it, he'd be delighted. I slowly lifted my head. Not far away lay Lu Ling's courtyard. The vermilion gate stood ajar, like a mouth waiting to devour. In my past life, it was here that I stood, holding this very bowl of soup, my heart brimming with joy as I pushed open that door. Then I saw Lu Ling lying disheveled on the bed, his personal mate Yingxue naked, clinging to his chest, her hand clutching an empty perfume pouch. The scent of aphrodisiac incense filled the entire room. I screamed, smashing the bowl, drawing the entire garden full of guests. Yingxue cried. The young master was drunk and tried to force himself on me. I tore away her falsehood in front of everyone, shaking the unused aphrodisiac incense from her sleeve. Lu Ling's mother ordered Yingxue locked in the woodshed. Late that night, the shed caught fire. When the flames were extinguished, only a charred corpse remained. Lu Ling told me then. She brought this upon herself. It has nothing to do with you. 3 months later, in a grand 8-man palanquin, adorned with 10 miles of red wedding finery, Lu Ling married me. I thought it was the beginning of happiness. Little did I know it was the hell he had meticulously crafted for me. Miss Bu called again. We should hurry over. The young master must be waiting impatiently. Pour out the soup. Bu froze. But you spent half the day preparing this yourself. Pour it out. I cut her off, crossing the lotus pond to take the soup bowl from Bayu's hands and dump its contents directly into the water. Ripples spread out, scattering several red carp. From this day forward, I said, staring at my own icy reflection in the water, Lu Ling's affairs are none of my concern. Bu stared at me blankly. Laughter drifted from afar, the banquet guests admiring flowers in the garden. Everything was exactly as it had been in my past life. Except for me. Bu. Go find my mother. Tell her I discovered the crown prince's behavior here was highly inappropriate. She must come immediately. It would be best if she could bring the Duchess of Yingxue with her. Remember absolutely. Bu clenched her teeth and hurried away. Soon, a clatter of footsteps drew near. Mother strode ahead, her expression already displeased. The Duchess of Yingxue followed beside her, her look carrying both irritation at the interruption and a hint of suspicion. Several other ladies, their curiosity piqued, trailed behind. Mother seized my icy hand, her brow furrowing deeper. Yuan, what has happened? Have you been wronged? Her gaze swept sharply toward the half-open door. The faint rustling sounds and the warm, cloying fragrance wafting out caused her expression to darken instantly. Mother, I met her gaze, my voice quiet yet clear enough for those nearby to hear. Your daughter was passing by earlier and heard unusual sounds coming from the crown prince's chambers. Fearing it might be inconvenient, I dared not enter without permission and could only disturb you and the Duchess. The Duchess of Yingxue's expression shifted slightly at these words. and she instinctively tried to intervene. Perhaps young Master Ling is merely resting after drinking. A little noise is hardly cause for. Lady Gong. Mother had already turned away, her face frosted over with an unquestionable protective instinct. My daughter is always level-headed. If she hadn't sensed something truly amiss, she wouldn't have acted this way. Since we're already here, to avoid gossip, we should see for ourselves. Whether it's my Yuan overthinking or something truly unsavory is happening, we need to get to the bottom of it now to avoid confusion later. She gave the Duchess of Yingxue no chance to intervene. Her gaze swept coldly over the maidservant following behind her, and she barked sharply. What are you standing there for? Open the door and see for yourself how well the young master is resting inside. The maidservant stepped forward at the command and pushed open the slightly ajar door without hesitation. Squeak! A thick, warm fragrance mingled with the pungent scent of alcohol surged out. Immediately after, a mess of scattered garments littered the floor. On the bed, Lu Ling lay disheveled, while the maid named Yingxue tumbled off him in a panic. A chorus of hushed gasps erupted outside the door. At that very moment, Lu Ling's body convulsed violently on the bed, his unfocused gaze suddenly sharpening. When his eyes met Yingxue's tear-streaked face, trembling beside him, an almost painful ecstasy and cherishing erupted within him. He abruptly reached out, pulling the nearly naked Yingxue into his embrace to shield her, only then lifting his head toward the doorway. When his gaze locked onto mine, the loathing in his eyes nearly solidified. The Duchess of Yingxue's vision darkened, pointing at Yingxue. Her voice trembled. You shameless slut! How dare you! Mother! Lu Ling snapped, his voice cutting through the air. He held Yingxue tighter, his gaze slicing through me like a knife, his tone cold and stubborn. This has nothing to do with Yingxue. It was my choice. She only loves me. What wrong has she done? Yingxue sobbed weakly in his arms, yet the occasional glance she shot my way betrayed a hint of triumph. I watched silently. Sure enough, he had returned. Well said. Heir to the Duke of Yingxue. What's wrong with that indeed? Mother's voice trembled with fury, her gaze as cold as ice. With our wedding imminent, you commit such indecency in broad daylight, caught red-handed, yet still have the audacity to defend a lowly servant girl. Lu Ling, is this how you treat your soon-to-be wife? How dare you treat the daughter of the Shen family with such contempt and shame? Under my mother's fierce reproach, Lu Ling's face darkened further. Yet he stubbornly clutched Yingxue tighter without a word. Only his gaze fixed on me grew colder and colder. I knew it was my turn to speak. Gently grasping my mother's trembling hand, I gave her a reassuring look before stepping forward, facing the assembled crowd, each wearing a different expression. My voice was clear and calm. Madam Duke, Mother, and all the ladies present today, let this serve as witness. The Crown Prince's heir, Lu Ling, has behaved disgracefully, lacking virtue. To cause such scandal on the eve of our wedding is utterly repulsive. Though I, Qin Yuan, am no royal princess, I know propriety and integrity. I cannot form a marriage alliance with such a man. I paused, sensing Mother's supportive presence drawing closer behind me, and felt Lu Ling's gaze suddenly fix on me, filled with utter disbelief. Therefore, I lifted my eyes. I, Qin Yuan, hereby declare the dissolution of my betrothal to Crown Prince Lu Ling. From this day forward, we shall marry others and remain entirely unrelated. Yuan. Mother cried softly behind Menet in protest, but with heartache and unwavering support. You, Qin Yuan, how dare you? The Duchess of Yingxue was both shocked and furious, her words tumbling out incoherently. At the words dissolve the engagement, Lu Ling's body stiffened violently, the arm that had been shielding Yingxue suddenly losing its grip. He stared at me, the hatred in his eyes replaced by utter bewilderment. He seemed utterly unprepared for the woman who, in a past life, had loved him deeply yet driven Yingxue to her death out of jealousy. To relinquish him so decisively, then, he scoffed. Qin Yuan, Do you find this game of feigned retreat amusing? Do you think this will make me punish Yingxue just to appease you? Don't be naive. You're merely unwilling to accept defeat and trying to force me to concede. He tightened his embrace around Yingxue, speaking in a haughty tone. Very well. For the sake of our past bond, I'll offer you a way out. Simply nod your consent. And I'll allow Yingxue to enter my household as my noble concubine on the same day as you. I guarantee your wedding ceremony will be the grandest, most splendid event in the capital. Surely that should satisfy you. Yingxue, nestled in his embrace, could barely suppress the curve of her lips. The room erupted once more in uproar. Such humiliation was unheard of. Mother trembled with rage, about to speak, but I gently stopped her. I watched Lu Ling's expression, convinced he controlled everything, and smiled softly. Prince Lu. My voice was quiet but clear. I believe you've misunderstood several things. First, I'm not negotiating terms with you. Second, I need no way out from you, nor do I care for your grand wedding ceremony. My gaze swept over Lu Ling's face, which had suddenly darkened. Each word was spoken with unwavering certainty. Third, I am determined to call off this marriage. It is not a tantrum, nor a ploy. It is simply that I, Qin Yuan, find you utterly unworthy. You two share a love as strong as gold. A match made in heaven. I offer you my sincere blessings. As for me, I took my mother's arm, feeling the warmth and strength she conveyed, straightening my back. I have my own world. I shall have no further connection with either of you. With that, I walked away, arm linked with my mother's. That day, rumors swirled like spring willow catkins, pervasive and relentless. The heir to the Yingxue duke caught cavorting with a maid before his wedding, prompting his fiancée to publicly annul the engagement in fury. This scandal swiftly became the hottest gossip on every street corner. Versions multiplied. Details grew fantastical. Yet the core always revolved around the philandering heir, the fiercely jealous heiress, and the devoted maid. Each time Bu returned from outside, her face drained of color with fury, clutching her handkerchief, she would repeat the outrageous rumors she'd heard. She always ended with, "Miss, those people know nothing. They're just spreading wild rumors. Don't take it to heart." I was combing my long hair before the mirror. The reflection in the bronze mirror showed a face calm and unruffled. Let them talk. Words can't hurt you unless you let them. If I endured worse in my past life, what did these petty matters matter now? The Shin residence closed its doors to visitors, and I welcomed the solitude perfect for sorting my thoughts and planning for the future. Half a month later, an invitation arrived for the birthday banquet at the residence of the Princess of Anyang. Mother hesitated. Yuan, the rumors outside haven't ceased. Shouldn't we decline? Citing illness. I took the exquisitely printed invitation and smiled faintly. Mother, the more we hide, the more others will assume we feel guilty. The princess is known for her grace and dignity. Declining her invitation would be discourteous. Besides, I have nothing to fear from rumors. I walk upright and sit straight. Let them see that the Shin family's daughter is not the fragile creature they claim. Seeing my resolute expression, Mother sighed and began preparing my attire and jewelry for the banquet. The prince's birthday banquet was, as expected, a lavish spectacle, silks shimmering, perfumed air, laughter filling the hall. Yet when I entered the garden with my mother, the sudden silence and the probing glances, some overt, some veiled from all directions, made it painfully clear I remained the center of attention. I acted as if unaware, greeting the princess and the ladies present with proper courtesy, my demeanor composed and my speech measured. The princess took my hand and exchanged a few words with me, her gaze gentle and unremarkable. My heart settled slightly. Yet, what was bound to happen, happened. At the turn of the water pavilion corridor, I encountered Lu Ling hidden, accompanied by Yingxue. Yingxue was dressed with particular care today, nestled close to Lu Ling's side with an intimate air. Many eyes discreetly turned our way. Miss Shin. Lu Ling spoke first. Prince Lu, I gave a slight nod, my gaze passing over him without emotion. I didn't pause, intending to walk straight past. Master, did you not say you were going to pay respects to the princess? The hour is nearly upon us, Yingxue reminded softly, her fingers gently tugging at Lu Ling's sleeve. Lu Ling hummed in acknowledgement, fixing me with a deep look. That gaze held a hint of inexplicable irritation. In the end, he said nothing more, turning instead to walk in another direction. Yingxue followed closely behind him. Yet as she passed by me, a defiant curve lifted at the corner of her mouth. I sneered inwardly. True to form, she couldn't stay out of trouble. Halfway through the banquet, Mother was drawn away by several familiar ladies for conversation. I found myself alone by the slightly secluded lotus pond, taking in some air. The water shimmered, reflecting the sky and clouds, and also revealing a figure approaching silently. Miss Shin, what refined taste. Yingxue's voice sounded behind me. I ignored her. Yingxue took 2 steps closer, her gaze lingering on my face, searching for a trace of dejection or resentment, but finding only indifference. Disappointed, she lifted her chin. This servant has come specifically to thank Miss Shin. Thank me. I raised an eyebrow. Indeed. Her eyes gleamed with triumph. Thank you for bringing so many people that day, catching me with the young master. Had it not been for that, he might never have resolved to cherish me so dearly. She adjusted the beaded hairpin at her temple with a seductive gesture. See, even after that scandal rocked the entire city, the young master still keeps me by his side, cherishing and loving me. He said the position of principal wife will be mine sooner or later. All your scheming to annul the marriage, in the end, you've only cleared the way for me. I stared at her smug, triumphant face, finding it both laughable and pitiful. Finished. My tone was flat and emotionless. Then get out. I have no interest in hearing about you and your crown prince. My indifference and dismissal clearly enraged her. The smugness froze on Yingxue's face, morphing into venom. She stepped closer, her voice dripping with malice. Qin Yuan, don't get too cocky. Think breaking off the engagement clears you. Everyone's saying you're jealous and intolerant, with a vicious temper. I doubt any family will dare marry you now. The young master only has eyes for me. Even if you threw yourself at him, he wouldn't want you. Pay him off. I chuckled softly, my gaze turning icy. Yingxue, have you forgotten your place? A lowly concubine who climbed into his bed. You dare speak of marriage before me? Lu Ling treats you like a toy, and you actually think you're someone important. Don't forget, masters are masters, and slaves are slaves. Even if he truly made you his legitimate wife, you couldn't wash away that vulgar stench clinging to your very being. You. Yingxue's face flushed crimson as she pointed at me. How dare you insult me? What's wrong with insulting you? I took a step back, brushing my sleeves in disgust. Get out of my sight. Don't soil my eyes. Yingxue's chest heaved violently. Suddenly, the venom on her face vanished, replaced by sheer terror. She shrieked. Miss Shin, this servant knows she's wrong. Please don't hit me. Before her words faded, she hurled herself against the sharp corner of the nearby rockery. A dull thud echoed. Her force was perfectly measured enough to instantly bruise and swell her forehead, making her look pitifully wounded, yet not severe enough to cause serious injury. The next instant, Lu Ling's furious shout exploded from the end of the corridor. Qin Yuan, what are you doing? He strode over, grabbing Yingxue, who was clutching her head and sobbing pitifully. The sight of the shocking wound on her forehead made his eyes darken with terrifying fury. He snapped his head up, fixing me with a glare. Qin Yuan, how could you be so vicious? She's merely a lowly maid, posing no threat to you whatsoever. Why must you constantly target her, trying to kill her every time? The surrounding guests, startled by the commotion, gathered around, witnessing the scene. They whispered and pointed fingers. watching Lu Ling's anxious, heartbroken expression as he blindly accused me, and seeing Yingxue's triumphant smirk directed at me, my heart froze into utter indifference. Prince Lu, with which eye did you see me strike her? Is the wound on her head fake? Did she deliberately throw herself at you to frame you? Lu Ling roared. Why couldn't it be? I countered. A faint, mocking curve touching my lips. You yourself said she's merely a maid. Why would I, the daughter of the Minister of Revenue, stoop so low as to risk my reputation by deliberately killing a maid in plain sight at the prince's residence? Lu Ling, use your brain. Lu Ling faltered, his expression darkening further. Yet Yingxue in his arms wailed louder, as if suffering the greatest injustice. Enough. A matron steward from the prince's residence hurried over, her face stern at the scene. This is no place for quarrels. Miss Yingxue is injured. Please take her away for bandaging and treatment. Miss Shen, Prince Lu, kindly step aside. Do not disturb the other guests' enjoyment. The farce was temporarily quelled. As the crowd dispersed, the looks directed at me held an added layer of strangeness. Lu Ling shot me a fierce glare, but ultimately helped Yingxue away first. I stood rooted to the spot, gazing at the lotus pond's shimmering water. Yingxue's ploy was crude yet effective, especially against someone like Lu Ling blinded by the guilt and deep affection of his past life. Returning to my mother, she clasped my hand tightly, her eyes filled with worry. I shook my head gently, signaling all was well. As the banquet drew to a close, guests lingered in twos and threes, enjoying their final stroll through the garden. As they approached a relatively narrow winding bridge, a small commotion suddenly erupted ahead. It was a young prince, perhaps 5 or 6 years old. At the age when children are most lively and energetic, he had wriggled free from his wet nurse's grasp and was chasing a colorful butterfly along the bridge. Running with joy, the accident happened in an instant. The young prince seemed to stumble violently over something beneath his feet. With a startled cry, he lost his balance entirely. He tumbled toward the shimmering waters below the bridge. Young prince, the wet nurse screamed, utterly terrified. The incident was sudden. The bridge was narrow and crowded, plunging everyone into chaos. The spot where the child fell was not far from where I stood. Almost instinctively, I lunged forward to reach him. My fingertips nearly brushed the hem of his robe when I caught sight of a pebble neither too large nor too small, its color blending almost perfectly with the bridge's green stone rolling away from beneath his feet. And just before the child's scream, the corner of my eye seemed to catch an extremely subtle, throwing-like motion from behind and to the side coming from the direction where Yingxue stood. In a split second, I forced myself to steady my stance, redirecting the arm that had reached for the child to instead block and deflect sideways. My block slightly altered the child's descent, sending him splashing into the water. Fortunately, he was very close to shore, and the water was shallow. Simultaneously, a pale green figure darted forward, snatching the panicked little prince's arm with pinpoint accuracy and hauling him swiftly back onto the bridge. The movement was so fluid it seemed rehearsed. It was Yingxue, her forehead bandaged in white cloth, her face pale and delicate. The young prince, choking on water, wailed in terror. Yingxue, soaked through, held him close, whispering soothingly, "It's okay, young prince. It's okay now." A collective sigh of relief and murmurs of admiration filled the air. The eldest princess, hearing the news, hurried over, seeing the scene. She felt both relief and gratitude. She spoke warmly to Yingxue, who was being helped up by her maidservant. Shivering uncontrollably, praise and sympathy poured toward Yingxue. She timidly lowered her head, repeating, "As long as the young prince is safe, it's all I should do." Lu Ling had already reached Yingxue's side, removing his outer robe to drape it over her drenched shoulders. His gaze held both heartache and pride. When he lifted his eyes to meet mine, the reproach in his stare was almost tangible, silently condemning my coldness. Amidst the chorus of praise for Yingxue, I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the clamor. Your Highness. Please wait. All eyes turned toward me in surprise. Ignoring Lu Ling's sudden chill and Yingxue's stiffened body, I curtsied to the princess. Then walked straight to the spot where the young prince had slipped. Under the puzzled gazes, I bent down and picked up a wet, smooth pebble from beside the bridge's crack. Its grayish-white hue blended almost perfectly with the bridge surface. Your Highness. Please observe. I held the pebble in my palm, displaying it to the princess and those around us. This stone is smooth and polished, clearly not part of the bridge's original surface, though its color appears similar. Upon closer inspection, there are distinct differences. Earlier, as the young prince was running, I glimpsed an object flung from behind Miss Yingxue's position, landing at his feet. It was precisely this object that he stepped on, causing him to lose his balance and fall into the water. I lifted my gaze, my eyes calm as they met Yingxue's, whose face was beginning to turn pale. May I ask, Miss Yingxue, did you perhaps accidentally drop something from your hand just now? You're making baseless accusations. Yingxue screamed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, her body trembling like a leaf in the wind, whether from cold or panic. It was impossible to tell. This servant's hands were empty. Where would I have gotten a pebble? It must be you. You must have deliberately thrown the pebble to frame me. She turned to Lu Ling, weeping bitterly. Your Highness, you must vindicate me. Miss Shin must harbor resentment from the incident days ago. This is clearly an attempt to destroy me. Lu Ling shielded Yingxue, glaring at me. Qin Yuan, would you stoop so low to frame Yingxue? You expect to convict her based on a pebble picked up at random? That stone could have been there for ages, or kicked over by someone else. How can you prove Yingxue did it? And why would she do such a thing? Why? I echoed softly, my gaze sweeping over Yingxue's face, etched with terror and venom, perhaps to create an opportunity for a heroic rescue, to curry favor with the princess and earn a reward, or to highlight her own kindness, contrasting it with my supposed wickedness. Absurd. Utter nonsense. Lu Ling denied vehemently, shielding Yingxue more tightly. Yingxue has a pure and kind heart. She wouldn't even step on an ant. How could she harbor such a vicious heart? Qin Yuan, you envy her for winning my affection, so you repeatedly scheme and frame her, first with the rockery collision, now with the pebble. When did your heart grow so dark and cruel? Yingxue buried her face in Lu Ling's shoulder, sobbing softly as if bearing the weight of the world's injustice. Whispers rippled through the assembled guests, many faces clouded with doubt. After all, the origin of the pebble remained unclear, and Yingxue had undeniably saved a life, just as Lu Ling believed he had regained the moral high ground and prepared to intimidate them with his presence. A cool, calm voice cut through the air once more. The pebble did not roll down by accident, nor was it Miss Shin's doing. Gu Kezi approached at a measured pace, his face pale yet his gaze clear as a mirror. He offered a slight bow to the princess, then turned to the crowd. Earlier, from the water pavilion across the way, I had a vantage point that allowed me to observe the actions of everyone on the bridge with perfect clarity. He paused, his fingertip pointing vaguely at Yingxue, his voice clear. I saw that before this young lady, Yingxue, threw herself forward to save him. Her right hand swiftly drew this pebble from her sleeve, using her handkerchief as cover. She flicked it with a crooked finger. The stone rolled precisely to the spot where the young prince was about to step. Only after he stumbled on the stone and lost his balance did she cry out and lunge forward. He looked at Yingxue, whose face had instantly turned as pale as paper. Her sobs choked off. Then at Lu Ling, whose expression was thick with disbelief. He added slowly, had Miss Shin not reacted in time to divert the young prince's fall, he would likely have plunged into the center of the pond by now. No, that's not it. You're mistaken. You're framing me. Yingxue was utterly panicked, clutching Lu Ling's sleeve so tightly her nails nearly dug into his flesh. Your Highness, he's lying. He colluded with Qin Yuan to frame me. I didn't throw the pebble. I saw Lu Ling's body visibly stiffen. After all, Lu Ling had spent so many years with me. He knew better than anyone whether I was acquainted with Gu Keji. Moreover, Gu Keji was famously upright and incorruptible. Lu Ling lowered his gaze to Yingxue in his arms, her makeup smeared from crying, her eyes darting with terror. His expression shifted repeatedly. For the first time, clear wavering and cracks of disbelief appeared in those eyes that had always held such disgust for me. But he quickly regained his composure. He abruptly released Yingxue, took 2 steps forward, and before the eyes of all present, knelt straight down before the solemn-faced princess. "Your Highness." Lu Ling's voice was hoarse with desperation. He lowered his head, avoiding both the prince's piercing gaze and the astonished stares of the crowd. "This matter is entirely my fault." Lu Ling's alone. Yingxue bears no responsibility. The entire hall erupted in an uproar. That pebble was accidentally kicked by Lu Ling's foot while he was pacing restlessly by the bridge earlier. It rolled onto the path. I paid it no mind. But it was tragically stepped on by the young prince as he ran, causing this disaster. Yingxue only saw my troubled expression and the danger facing the young prince. In her panic, she rushed out to save him. She had no idea where the stone came from. He had taken all the blame upon himself. Using the flimsy excuse of an accidental kick, he attempted to absolve Yingxue of suspicion of deliberate harm. The Princess Regent's brows knitted tightly, her face flushing with fury as if her most sensitive nerve had been struck. She had borne this child late in life, and this young prince was her only offspring, cherished 1,000, 10,000 times more than her own eyes. Well, accidentally kicked indeed. The prince's voice rose sharply. Icy cold. Lu Ling, what do you take this palace of mine for? And what do you take my child for? Do you think your restless mood gives you license to kick stones and injure people, nearly causing a catastrophe? Had Shin's maid not reacted swiftly, had Keji not witnessed it firsthand, would you have continued to cover it up, letting the malicious intent behind this act go unpunished? Her voice grew angrier with each word, her chest rising and falling slightly, her gaze fixed on Lu Ling, brimming with disappointment and fury. I spared you because of your youth and your status as the heir to the Duke of Yingxue. I intended to spare your dignity and investigate thoroughly. Yet you are so foolish. For the sake of a mere maid, you dare weave such an outrageous lie. Do you truly believe my eyes are dim with age, unable to see through your feigned concern? Your Highness, please calm your anger. Lu Ling dares not. Lu Ling bowed his head even lower, his voice trembling, yet stubbornly repeating, it was indeed Lu Ling's negligence, and no one else is involved. I beg your Highness to discern clearly. He prostrated himself on the ground, his posture utterly humble. Meanwhile, at the moment Lu Ling knelt to take the blame and the Princess Regent's fury erupted, Yingxue's body suddenly trembled violently, like a frightened rabbit, contrary to everyone's expectations. She did not rush forward to share the blame with Lu Ling or plead his case. Instead, she lowered her head even further, nearly burying it in her chest. Shoulders hunched as she tried desperately to diminish her presence. She even subtly shifted half a step away from Lu Ling. It was an unmistakably urgent attempt to distance herself. Yingxue's subtle movements and silence pierced the hearts of many perceptive individuals present. Even those guests who had harbored sympathy or doubt toward her moments before now wore expressions of understanding and contempt. The princess, of course, noticed it too. Her eyes blazed with even greater fury, tinged with a hint of scorn for Lu Ling's poor judgment. Standing nearby, I coldly observed Yingxue's cowering, self-preserving demeanor, then shifted my gaze to Lu Ling's slightly trembling back. Lu Ling, oh Lu Ling, you gambled your reputation for her, even risking the prince's wrath. But look back now, what exactly are you desperately protecting? Very well, very well. The princess burst into a bitter laugh. Since you, Prince Lu, insist it was mere negligence, so be it. She no longer glanced at the 2 kneeling figures. Instead, she barked at the attending guards. Lu Ling, heir to the Duke of Yingxue, behaved improperly at this princess banquet. His carelessness nearly caused the prince's heir to fall into the water and suffer injury. His actions are infuriating. His heart unforgivable. Guards, arrest Lu Ling and detain him in the Jingzhou Prefecture jail pending further disposition. I shall report this to His Majesty and the Duke of Yingxue before final judgment is rendered. Your Highness. Lu Ling snapped his head up, all color draining from his face. He clearly hadn't anticipated the princess to be so ruthless. Issuing an immediate arrest order without hesitation, he opened his mouth, wanting to say something more, but saw the prince's face had turned ashen. Her gaze icy cold. There was clearly no room for negotiation. 2 burly guards stepped forward at her command, 1 on each side. Seizing Lu Ling, Miss Yingxue, the prince's gaze finally turned coldly to the maid, who was nearly cowering into a ball. You are also implicated in this case. Effective immediately. You are confined to the Duke of Yingxue's residence until the matter is fully investigated. You are not to step outside the gates. Disobedience will be met with severe punishment. Yingxue shuddered violently, immediately kowtowing with a voice thick with tears. This servant obeys. Thank you, Your Highness, for your mercy. She never dared lift her gaze to meet Lu Ling's, who was being restrained by the guards. As Lu Ling was led past Yingxue by the guards, his footsteps faltered momentarily. Perhaps he still clung to a sliver of hope that she might lift her head to look at him, even if only to show a hint of concern or reluctance. Yet Yingxue only buried her head deeper, shoulders hunched as if terrified he might implicate her. The last trace of color drained from Lu Ling's face. A flash of deep pain and bewilderment flickered in his eyes. But he was swiftly shoved away by the guards, stumbling off without a backward glance. The farce concluded with Lu Ling thrown in irons and Yingxue confined to her quarters. The princess, her anger still smoldering, had no desire to prolong the banquet. With a stern expression, she ordered the guests dismissed. The guests fell silent, bowing in retreat without a word. Yet, as they departed, their glances toward me grew more complicated. Mention of Lu Ling and Yingxue drew nothing but sighs and headshakes, particularly toward Yingxue's self-preserving tactics in crisis. The disdain was palpable. I drifted with the crowd toward the exit. Mother clasped my hand tightly, her palm slightly damp. She sighed softly. That Lu Ling has truly lost his mind. That maid has nothing going for her, no beauty, no talent, and a wicked heart. How could she compare to my precious daughter? For such a worthless creature, he betrayed you. He must be blind. She patted my hand gently, her voice filled with sorrow. I tried to comfort her. It's fortunate I saw through Lu Ling's true nature early on. Had I married him, wouldn't I have regretted it for the rest of my life? Mother nodded. As we neared the estate gates, the crowd of guests thinned. A maid approached quietly, curtsied, and whispered, Miss Shen, please wait. My lord says the night road is treacherous and has sent me with a glass lantern to light your way. She handed me an exquisitely crafted glass lantern emitting a soft glow. I lifted my gaze and saw Gu Kuji being helped into a simple carriage parked nearby. As if sensing my eyes upon high, he turned his head slightly, gave a brief nod in my direction, then bent to enter the carriage. Please convey my thanks to the prince, I murmured, accepting the lantern still warm to the touch. The maid curtsied and withdrew. The soft glow of the glass lantern illuminated the ground beneath my feet, banishing the surrounding darkness and chill. Holding the lamp, I boarded our family carriage alongside my mother. Lu Ling imprisoned. Yingxue confined. This turn of events proved far more dramatic than I had anticipated. Yet, given Lu Ling's obsession with Yingxue, he likely wouldn't accept defeat so easily. And the selfish nature Yingxue revealed today might it become the first true crack in her relationship with Lu Ling. And Gu Kuji, was this lantern a simple gesture of thoughtfulness, or did it carry hidden meaning? I placed the wind lantern gently beside me, my fingertips brushing the cool glass shade. The turmoil at the princess banquet had spread like ripples from a stone dropped into a tranquil lake. swiftly engulfing the entire capital. News of the Yingxue Duke's heir, Lu Ling, being detained in the Yingxue prefecture jail spread like wildfire before dawn. Yet the atmosphere within the Shin residence felt different. Father returned from court, his expression grave as he summoned me to his study. Yuan, he said, dismissing the attendants, his voice solemn. His Majesty has learned of last night's incident and is greatly angered. He has issued an edict reprimanding the Duke of Yingxue for failing to discipline his son properly and ordered the prefect of Yingxue to conduct a thorough investigation. This time, Lu Ling will likely not escape punishment. He paused, looking at me. You remain at the center of the rumors. I fear you will attract even more attention from now on. You must be doubly cautious in all matters. I nodded in agreement. I understand, Father. Back in my chambers, Bai Yu helped me adjust my robes while murmuring, everyone says the Crown Prince Lu has lost his mind over that woman. But miss, he certainly got his comeuppance this time. Not yet, I murmured softly, gazing at my reflection in the mirror. A thought quietly took shape within me. Some truths are better revealed by my own hand than left to surface on their own. At the moment when Lu Ling was most vulnerable, most in need of something to cling to, 2 days later, I found an excuse to leave, yet the carriage steered silently toward the prefectural office. Lubricating the wheels was no great feat. My status as the daughter of Minister Shin, coupled with my tenuous role as a witness in the Princess Estate affair, meant the jailers offered little resistance. They merely cautioned me against lingering too long. At the end of the damp, shadowy passage lay the solitary cell where Lu Ling was held. He sat slumped against the wall, his brocade robe stained, hair disheveled. In just 2 days, he appeared profoundly haggard. Hearing footsteps, he snapped his head up. In the dim light, his eyes suddenly flashed with a light mingled with hope and urgency. But the moment he recognized me, that light instantly extinguished, turning into cold shock and disgust. It's you. His voice was hoarse and dry, carrying undisguised rejection. What are you here for? To laugh at me. I motioned for the guard to step back, watching him silently through the bars. The cell reeked of mold and despair. Seems Prince Lu is waiting for someone. My tone was flat, devoid of emotion. Thought it might be your devoted Yingxue, risking her life just to see you one last time, to stand by you through thick and thin. Lu Ling's body tensed almost imperceptibly. His eyes flickered. Yet he forced a cold smile. What transpired between Yingxue and me is none of your business. Outsider. If she hasn't come, she must have her reasons. Difficulties. I chuckled softly, the sound jarring in the silent cell. Indeed. She has difficulties. Her difficulty is that she believed the rumors that you, Prince Lu, might never leave this dungeon alive, and that the Yingxue Duke's mansion is about to fall. So she packed her gold and jewels overnight and fled. You're lying. Lu Ling lunged at the bars like a wounded beast, his hands clenching the cold iron as his eyes bulged with fury. Qin Yuan, I know you hate me, hate Yingxue, but how could you be so vicious, inventing such lies to slander her? Lies. I tilted my head slightly, watching his face contort with rage and panic. A wave of satisfaction washing over me. Do you want me to tell you which side gate she slipped out of? Or what gold, silver, jewelry, and silk robes shed stolen from your chambers were packed in her bundle? Oh, and the ones who helped her escape. A stable hand surnamed Zhao from the estate, and a servant boy named Li Shun from your courtyard. Seems they're all from the same village. Huh. Fellow countrymen. Lu Ling's breathing grew ragged, his pupils constricting as he struggled to process my words. Fighting against the truth. You probably don't know this yet. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to ensure every word penetrated his ears. Having some free time lately, I uncovered some interesting details. Your beloved Yingxue and that Li Shun were already married in a proper ceremony back in their village before entering the mansion. They even had a child, whom they're raising back home. She schemed to get close to you, climbed into your bed all because of your status as crown prince, the wealth and prestige of the Yingxue duke's household. That whole act of undying devotion, of vowing to marry no one but you, it was all just a show for you. You self-important fool, Lu Ling. You didn't really believe that someone of her background, with her nature, could genuinely fall in love with you, did you? No. Impossible. You're lying to me. You must be lying. Lu Ling shook his head frantically, his voice hoarse and broken. Eyes bloodshot, final struggle before his belief crumbled completely. Yingxue sacrificed her past life for me. How could she? Qin Yuan. You must be fabricating these vile lies to get revenge on me. You have a heart of poison. Watching him collapse in utter despair yet still refuse to believe it. Only a weary sense of finality remained in my heart. Believe it or not. It's up to you. I took a step back, creating distance as if he were something filthy. I just think that even if you're going to die, you should die knowing the truth. Otherwise, you'll haunt the underworld clinging to that nonsense, making yourself a laughingstock. With that, I turned away without another glance, walking step by step back along the corridor I had come. Behind me came his beastly, agonized growls of refusal and the dull thuds of his head ramming against the bars. But I did not look back. Months later, Lu Ling was released on bail through the Yingxue Duke's extensive lobbying. The very next day after his release, he vanished into the countryside. Some time passed before a horrifying report reached us from a small southern county. It was said Lu Ling had tracked down the escaped Yingxue, along with her husband Li Shun and their young child. He personally heard Yingxue mock him openly how foolish and gullible he was, how she had toyed with him, and how she had squandered the treasures had bestowed upon her with her husband. Consumed by fury, Lu Ling burst in with a knife, slashing Yingxue, Li Shun, and the innocent child to death. The scene was utterly horrific. Afterward, Lu Ling vanished without a trace. The authorities issued warrants, yet he remained untraceable. I was practicing calligraphy in my study when I heard this news. My brush hesitated, leaving a small ink blot on the Xian paper. Baiyu's face turned pale as she tremblingly recounted the details she'd heard. I set down my brush, gazing at the ink stain. My heart felt no satisfaction, only a heavy, shared sorrow, a kindred grief. A karmic bond born of deceit and obsession ended in the bloodiest manner possible. No one emerged victorious. I closed my eyes briefly, banishing distracting thoughts. Life resumed its superficial calm. My interactions with Gu Kuji remained sparse. The spring orchid bloomed again. He would occasionally send servants with suitable fertilizer or casual books, accompanied by brief notes in his crisp, angular handwriting. Sometimes they contained a line or two of commentary unrelated to romance, other times simply usable or readable. I never replied, but I followed his advice and read his books thoroughly. We rarely met. The few times we did, it was usually a distant glance in public, or at a poetry gathering or flower viewing banquet, where our eyes would meet across the crowd. A slight nod would suffice as a greeting. No extra words were needed. Yet a strange tacit understanding flowed between us. I knew he kept an eye on my circumstances, in a way that never felt intrusive. When I might need it, he'd quietly offer a gesture of kindness or a subtle hint. Like that time at a banquet when a lady deliberately tried to embarrass Mei He just happened to strike up a conversation with the host about a related topic, effortlessly saving my face. Or when rumors about Lu Ling threatened to drag me into the fray again. Some literati from the Yongding Marquis household would conveniently publish an essay discussing current affairs, shifting the prevailing winds away. This protection was quiet and distant, yet it offered a profound sense of security. Like the steady, faint light of a lighthouse in the dead of night, it doesn't illuminate the entire sea, but it keeps you on course, preventing you from losing your way entirely. One autumn afternoon, I sat alone in the garden pavilion of the mansion, reading. The wind was strong, rustling the pages with a soft flutter. The wind is rather strong here. Take care not to catch a chill. A clear, gentle voice sounded from nearby. I looked up to find Gukushi standing on the path outside the pavilion. He wore a plain blue robe with a matching cloak over it. His complexion remained slightly pale, but his eyes were gentle as he watched me quietly. Behind him, a servant carried a food box. "Your Highness." I was somewhat surprised. Setting down my book and rising, I was passing nearby and recalled we've recently acquired some southern osmanthus tea at the mansion. Its nature is mild and moisturizing. So I took the liberty of bringing some for Miss Shin to sample. His tone was natural as he motioned for the servant to place the food box on the stone table within the pavilion. I hadn't expected Miss Shin to be here. "Thank you for your thoughtfulness, Your Highness." I bowed my head in acknowledgement. This passing by seemed a bit too coincidental, but neither of us mentioned it. He didn't enter, remaining outside the pavilion at a respectful distance. Autumn sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled light and shadow across his form. The chrysanthemums in the courtyard will soon bloom. The home mansion's greenhouse has cultivated several rare green varieties. If Miss Shin has time, she might come see them in a few days. His gaze swept over the garden's slightly desolate autumn scenery before he suddenly spoke. My heart stirred slightly, and I looked at him. He was also looking at me, his eyes calm, yet seeming to hold a deep expectation. "All right," I heard myself reply. The corners of his mouth seemed to curve ever so slightly. Then it settled. "Young Master Feng, Miss Shin should return to her quarters soon." He gave a slight nod, then turned and walked slowly back along the path he had come. His slender figure quickly vanished at the end of the leaf-strewn lane. I stood rooted to the spot, gazing at the still warm box of osmanthus tea on the stone table, then toward the direction he had vanished. Autumn winds swirled fallen leaves into spirals. The air seemed to linger with a faint, crisp medicinal scent and the unique ink-scented aura that clung to him. An unprecedented feeling, light and warm, quietly filled my heart. It wasn't a sudden, intense stir of the heart, but more like a frozen lake surface, touched by the warm spring sun, quietly melting at one corner, crystal clear to the bottom. It reflected the light of the sky and the shadows of the clouds. I knew something was quietly shifting. This time, it was I who consciously, willingly, walked toward that different landscape. The past was like a prison I had broken free. Where the future leads, my heart grows clearer. The end.